Hey guys, welcome to the third episode of the OC show. It's the fourth season, and today we've got myself, we've got Bill Zoid, and we've got Trofman. We're missing one of our friends and hosts, Shiro. He couldn't make it today. But yeah, we're all set to give you the latest and greatest of what's happening in the OC world. I'm going to start off with updates on what's hot in the whole competition scene. We've got the OC World Cup coming up in Cape Town in South Africa this on the 29th of this month, and that's going to be something to really look forward to. Of course, I'm wishing Dr. Wees, and his family get well soon, because that's I kind of caught up on their Facebook post saying the whole family's down and sick, so hoping they get better. We're gonna totally want him there, and.
Well, I can say something about that. It's like, hi guys, Truthman here. They were sick for the past week with the newborn, and they all got sick at the same time. So for the past week, it was like very, like, can he make it? Will he make it? It's like, was like very difficult to gauge on what's going on. So far, it seems it's getting better, but still not exactly sure for next week if that's gonna happen directly or not.
Yeah. So. Wish him a really quick recovery and his family. And moving on from the OC World Cup in Cape Town, we've got the Gigabyte Beat the Heat and Team Cup 2017 and a whole lot of other competitions. So again, with Gigabyte Beat the Heat, there's another 16 days odd left, and we still have only 6 overclockers taking part here, which is signs of heavy sandbagging, I guess.
But, well, that's summertime in a way, but I mean, there's a lot of chance for people to still compete and sandbag in the last few hours.
They still got 16 days because Gigabyte isn't doing for earlier competition this year. Gigabyte had a staggered sort of stage ends, so you had to submit stage 1 in 7 days, stage 2 in 14, stage 3 in a month, stage 4 in a month. As the competition started. So you didn't have people turning up really late to the party, but this one is like, okay, people, competition starts, you have 30 days to do whatever you want. And, for all we know, somebody got the highest score on day 1, and they're just sitting on it going like, haha, I have the highest score. Nobody's ever going to touch this.
I'm actually willing to bet that's happening.
Yeah. I think I'm 99% sure that Lumi from Finland will be joining this. Because he was talking to me about getting a Gigabyte motherboard for Z270, so there's going to be some heavy hitters turning up to the competition.
I'm sure. I mean, none of the Team AU guys are here, or, none of the regular Gigabyte suspects are here either. So.
Yes. I mean, we already have MLLR, KLLR, who is, overclocks.net, in-house, volt mod, e-powered machine.
Really.
Production line.
This work is epic.
Yeah.
And he's doing a hell of a job. It's always super clean as well.
It's super clean.
Yeah, it's like, it looks factory new. Like, it's like, you can tell that it's not supposed to be that way, but you see some of my work and it's like, how does that not catch on fire? Whereas this is like, you know what? I'd actually run this in a daily PC. If I really wanted to, I could. Whereas, his work is absolutely amazing. So, yeah.
So I'm expecting some really big hitting, in the next few days here. But yeah, obviously everybody's just taking it easy. No one's really submitting anything.
Last 24 hours. That's when we'll start seeing the fight.
So we've also got a whole bunch of competitions that are starting up. Team Cup is one. Nothing much has changed here in terms of ranking. This time they've got, the usual suspects are kind of still there. You've got Warp9 Systems, Overclock.net, Extreme Overdrive, the Reddit Overclocking team, and Kalkaran. I mean, the usual suspects again. Since this is France week, come on, Kalkaran. We're all rooting for you this week. Push hard.
This is the French episode tonight, so I will have to notice the Cocotland team is the fifth, and the second French team from France is actually HWBOT in the 19th position. So yeah, I mean, I'm rooting for the guys, but yeah, guys, just do it, just make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still expecting Clan OC to make a big appearance up top as well.
Oh yeah, they're kind of missing from the ranking right now, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess we can talk about that in I guess we can talk about that very soon, yeah.
Yeah. And then I guess, you know, there's a whole bunch of nice competitions that are actually opening up as well. You've got the Rookie Rumble and you've got the AMD Rookie Rumble, which is starting today. So, yeah, 21 days to go in those competitions. I mean, come on guys, get rolling. They should be kicking off in the next few hours, I think. Yeah, give it another 5-6 hours.
As far as I can tell, Rookie Rumble for AMD seems to be already running, unless I'm reading this wrong. Because yeah, it's July 15th, so
yeah,
should be. It's literally hours away. Yeah,
correct. Yeah,
because I'm like 2 hours away from being on the 15th, so.
There we go. So it's 2 hours away then, pretty much.
Well, I'm in the UK, so it depends on where the HWBOT time zone is.
Well, I hope it's not. Well, it can't be Taiwan, so I'm guessing it's either GMT or it's United States time. So I would think maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so that's starting very, very soon.
Very, very soon, and the benchmarks are also pretty nice from a rookie point of view. It's not, you know, something that's like super heavy duty. It's in the
frequency. Yeah, AMD, we're looking at frequency, HWBOT Prime. Though HWBOT Prime, it's not a heavy benchmark, but
not at all.
It's a mess.
It's a mess. It's just a rerun. It's just a rerun riot. That's
there. You have to look a bit like you can mess around with the Java version for a bit, and also rerun. You got to rerun. But, you know, it's like, well, at least they'll learn the first rule of HWBOT. If your benchmark score isn't high enough, try running it again.
Okay, that's true. And then the Intel one is also pretty nice. I mean, you've got XTU, which is, it's the de facto Intel benchmark.
Yeah. It's heavy, though. That one's really heavy.
It's heavy, yeah.
And they also have Geekbench single core as well as Cinebench 15. Cinebench 15, I think, is real. Like, that's the benchmark I started on. So, well, I started on Cinebench 11, not 15. But
honestly,
I like it because 15, 15, 11, they're very, very similar. But the benchmark is very, very simple. Basically, you don't need to worry a ton about memory. It's all about the CPU. It's also not quite as hot as, say, XTU. So you can really push that one.
That's true. That's true. And it's one of the more fun benchmarks, and it hardly takes any time. So this is a benchmark I like. And there's not so much you can do in terms of tweaking. It's like usually the second run is the fastest, and run it with.
Well, yeah, set priority, run it once or twice or maybe 3 times.
Yeah, that's important.
You also want to strip down Windows to the point where you don't have a bunch of random garbage running in the background. But beyond that, it's not like SuperPi or GPU Pi, where GPU Pi you have to have the right Opencl version. If you don't, then it runs horrible.
Then it runs like crap.
And actually that happened in some competition as well, that people running the wrong Opencl. The one in CES. The one in CES,
Extreme Addict against Lucky Noob. Actually, wait, did that happen at CES? Oh yeah,
that was at CES, and that was with
CES.
I was thinking about the one.
Takeshi as well. The Japanese guy was running the wrong version. Yeah, was running the AMD OpenCL on the Intel one. Was like, dude.
Actually, no. It's actually the AMD OpenCL is faster for one of the.
It's faster for the bigger benches, and Intel's faster for the smaller ones.
So for 100 mil, you want to have Intel. And for 1 billion, you want to have AMD because AMD will blow away Intel on 1 billion. So yeah, that's a weird benchmark. Like depending on what you're calculating, you actually need to change regardless of what CPU you're running.
That's true.
So, yeah, and if you don't know about that, you're going to be scoring so low, and you're just going to be sitting there like, I have no idea what's wrong, because it doesn't make sense when you see it. Like, it literally makes gigahertz worth of difference.
It does.
In scores. It's huge.
It's huge. It's actually huge.
So yeah, that's definitely something to watch out for. And actually, if any of our viewers are considering joining the Rookie Rumble AMD number 40, that has GPU Pi. So test your OpenCL versions.
Yeah, that's the biggest week there is.
Yeah, it's all about the OpenCL version. And actually, I think even the different versions that there are is like, I've heard of people running 1.2 for AMD OpenCL 1.2 very specifically. Whereas I have not really bothered to find the 1.2 version. I just run 2.0 or whatever I can easily get my hands on from AMD's side.
Well, actually, for everyone that is watching that just got a Ryzen thing and that just want to push it a little more, or even just an old AMD, where can I get the information? Are you gonna do something on Reddit or overclocking to explain new people
the OpenCL stuff for GPU Pi? Guess I could cover that. I'm kind of preoccupied with Vega right now, and I also have
really.
I mean, in terms of OpenCL, it's actually pretty simple. Just with Intel, I just go for the latest one, and that's usually the fastest. I mean, you could check.
Usually. And then you find like some magic version, which is like always a second faster.
Yeah, really. Well, if that's the case, then yeah. I mean, but usually with Intel, it's not that much. With AMD, it's been 1.2, 2.91, and I think 2.91, I think, is the faster one out of the two. So there's not too many versions to really try when it comes to AMD. There's just, I think, 3 or 4 versions. So that's something that you can get to the bottom of really quickly.
All right, so
yeah, there you go. Those are your tips for GPU Pi. Yeah, there's in terms of competitions, I think that's pretty much it. The Gigabyte Master Ryzen competitions already got done with. They were, just a couple of day competitions. Lucky Noob won one, and then you had Blue Fiber win the other one, which was Ryzen 7 and Lucky Noob. I mean, Ryzen 5. Lucky Noob won Ryzen 7. So in terms of competitions, I think that about covers it. The biggest competition, I think, this month is going to be the Gigabyte Beat the Heat, and of course your Team Cup competition, which I'm expecting big things from the French teams as well. Clan OC is nowhere to be found. So yeah, come on, France! This is your week.
So yeah, this is actually the week, but this is the show tonight as well. So we did the special de French edition. There was a few people asking why we will be doing that. First of all, I'm French, so I decide what I do. No, actually, it's because it's the 14th of July, and that's the National Day in France today. And it ended up the exact same day as we were doing the OC show, and we're like, well, that would be actually cool to do something about, like, focusing a little bit on the French people. And actually, if you guys live in a country that you have a special National Day that end up on a Friday, let us know so we can do the same for your country. Why not, right?
Why not?
So basically, I wanted to talk a little bit more about the French overclockers and overclocking dynamic that exist. The main reason for that is I am the vice president of the FFOC, so the French Federation of Overclocking, which is basically an impartial body about people that are aimed to support and teach overclocking in France. So it's basically every team is welcome, every member is welcome, and there's no official FFOC team on HWBOT. So it's like all the teams have their own dynamics, and we basically help them out if they want to have new things. There was some activities as well during the Gamers Assembly 2017, actually during the OCWC, the HWBOT World Tour in Europe. That was the FFOC taking care of the workshop. So that's basically what we do at the FFOC. And French had a long, how can I say that, history with overclocking. From the time there was a lot of people and then everyone disappeared and then some people came back and then they disappeared again. And I'm talking about Clan OC here, for example, that we were expecting to be at some point. The main reason is the Clan OC team still exists on HWBOT, but they don't have anywhere else to gather anymore because the website has been done for more than a year now. But there's still quite a strong team with quite of a strong player actually benching for them. But there's new kids on the block. Basically, if we look at the overall ranking in terms of country leagues, let me find back the exact country leagues. Yes, that's it. If we look at the country leagues, basically US is first, but France is actually number fifth. Number fifth, and it's composed of 3,782 overclockers, which is a good amount, but compared to the US of 33,000, it's over 3,000 still. So that's quite a good amount. It's actually like maybe like 20k point in front of UK that have 5,000 overclockers, but it's just behind Russia, like 20k point as well, like 26k points behind Russia. That is 2,200 overclockers there. So we can see that the number of overclockers doesn't make everything, but that explains a lot compared to the US that have a lot of overclockers, but they are maybe a bit less active, even though they still have like 3 million points more. No, 300,000. Sorry, 300,000 points more. But it's still something to see that France used to be in the top 3 for quite some time, fighting against Russia and the US for a long time, and then it fall off in the ranking to 10th place, and then come back up to where it is today at the 5th place over the past few years. But if we have a look at the different leagues itself, if we take so let's do it in the other way. So if we start by the rookies, so the people that started for the less than 3 months, the first French overclocker is actually Marc Paris in 10th position. And that's the first time. And actually, that guy is from small from Factor.net team. So that's actually a team that is focusing mainly on small factors PC. So Mani ITX, Micro ATX, and DTX, and some of the weird naming things one. And if we go down, we have no one in the top 20 that is other than Mac Paris in the rookies. But we can always look for who are there and how many of them exist in the rookie league. There's actually 190 overclockers from France in the rookie league. So that means there's close to 200 people that started overclocking in France over the past 3 months. Which is
that's a huge amount of people who just hit the overclocking scene, which is lovely to see. This is exactly what we want to see, actually. More and more people entering the overclocking scene, and some very nice points even to those people. I mean, like 67 points, 65 points for rookies. I mean, who've just like kind of got going. Very nice to see. That means they're active. That means they're actually submitting. Kudos to you guys. Kudos, really. Brilliant. I mean, can't ask for more, really.
Well, actually, the most important league for me will be the novice leagues. The main reason is because it's a French guy on top.
But look at that. I mean, the 776 points. Listen, kudos. Seriously, that's a amazing job. That's a hell of a lot of points. I mean, he should actually be almost in. I mean, if he's, I don't know if he's benched sub-0 yet, but I mean, obviously not, because he'd be in the Extreme League. But yeah, that's a lot of points for somebody in the Novice League, and that's a job really well done.
Well, if we have a look at
more points than I have.
If we give a look at the hardware library you'd have, Core i3 7350K, 7600K, 3820, 4790K, 5820K. So this is like 4 different platforms.
136 submissions with the 5960X. That's been the CPU of choice for him, pretty much.
I mean, well, that CPU is an absolute monster. And he does have a lot of GPU submissions. He has a 760, 1080, 1070, 1060, 980, 980 Ti. Let's actually check out, like, you know, his points distribution.
So it's actually quite a lot of graphic cards as well. So the guys have at least 3 platforms, and at least...
Funnily enough, he has a lot, like, considering the number of GPUs he has, he's actually mostly carried by, like, Intel mainstream points. If you look at his hardware points and global points, it's mostly Intel mainstream, except for a bit of the 5960X for X265 for that benchmark. That one's one of the non-mainstream CPUs he has. The 1080 is also up there for his global points. But hardware points, it's like i7, 4700K, 6700K, 76. Wait, the i5 is actually worth. Oh right, XTU is a thing. that benchmark is like, if you have a mainstream Intel platform, XTU is just 3 points, literally.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, assuming you're somewhat competent at overclocking, if you run it at stock, you're obviously not getting anything. But
yeah, that's quite diverse. I mean, like 5 motherboard, 3 from Asus, 1 from Gigabyte, 1 from ASRock. The one he submitted the most were the ASRock one and the Asus one. So it's like, nice. I mean, it's
very nice to see. He's benching just about everything.
And if we look back at all the other people in the Novice League, there's quite some people, but he's far ahead of all the other ones, all the other people in that Novice League.
Yes. Because the closest guy is, I think, 235 points, which would be Yupong.
Yeah, and the Yupong was actually at the is a very new guy, but he was at the Gamers Assembly, not Gamers Assembly, the HWBOT World Tour, and he's part of the FFOC as well. So he's following up on closely with the guys. So it's one of the new guys in the.
And you can't go wrong, man, with a team name like that.
Yeah, the Asus Baguette. There is 649 overclockers in the Novice League from France. Yeah. Which means that all these guys were rookies before in the past few months, and now are in the Novice League, and they will move in the next few months towards the Enthusiast League.
Yeah. Hopefully towards the Extreme League as well.
Well, speaking of the Enthusiast League, the first French overclocker is Nexus 35 from Coquetland team, and is ranked 6th in the world here. If you look at the if you look at how many enthusiast people there is in France, most of them in the top 20 are from Coquetland.
There's over 2,200. I mean, I just stopped counting beyond a certain point, but there's over 2,200 in the Enthusiast League.
So that's quite intense. There's a lot of people there that we know as well, like Ziken is part of the FFOC as well. Komiat is part of the FFOC. Some of these guys are actually, even though they are still in the Enthusiast League, which is people that haven't done liquid nitrogen and stuff like this, and they're still helping out others to learn and to get into the overclocking things. Moving on to the Apprentice League, the first overclocker, which is also from the FFOC, because most of them actually he's from the Coquetland team, but he's part of the FFOC as well, helping out the team in Coquetland to actually get up to speed when they need to get new things.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of points as well. 939 points is a serious amount of points.
It's 7th in the world in the Apprentice League. There's only 52 apprentices in France. Actually, that's one of the lowest number, except compared to the upper leagues. But we can see that maybe some of the novice will go to enthusiast, and the enthusiast will switch to the apprentice very soon. In the next few months. That would be cool. If we have a look at the extreme overclockers, so people that use liquid nitrogen, the first French overclocker is actually Orion 24.
Orion 24.
It doesn't have officially a team. It's like from the extreme overclockers of France, which is the default team of extreme overclockers where they don't belong to any specific teams. And he announced, I think that was 2 weeks ago, that he was actually not exactly stopping Extreme OC, but reducing a lot the amount of time he was spending in the
Extreme OC. I was really sad when I read that. I totally feel him. I mean, I understand where he's coming from. I mean, life takes over, and then overclocking there's no getting around the fact that this is an expensive game. It is a very expensive sport. So, yeah, I mean, I totally understand where that's coming from. I'm gonna miss him. He was an exceptional guy and a brilliant overclocker as well. So I hope he just doesn't drop off the radar, but still keeps benching occasionally, if at all. I mean, he's not said that he's gonna stop benching. He's just said that he's gonna
He said he's stepping back, so basically it's like reducing the amount of time he's spending, and he told people asking him if he will stop completely that he will maybe compete in the Galax OC qualifier as well. Which means he can still get qualified for one of the big competitions this year. So we will see what happened to that. And there was a lot of like old overclockers that were telling him like, you don't stop like this. You cannot stop like this. That doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly. I was one of them. I mean, it's just sad to see somebody of his caliber, and he's just an overall really nice guy, and it's just sad to see somebody like that.
But I mean, 3 years ago, that guy didn't even overclock at all. Yeah. And he came up to be in the top 10 of the Extreme League, which is an extreme achievement. Like. This is one of the most impressive achievements we had in the past few years. There's just a few people like this that managed to jump from doing nothing up to, hey, right there, I'm there, guys, fighting against the top people. And we had quite a few matches between him and Dan Cup. That's something that was like not this year, the year before. And we had again some matches again this year. It's like, wow, that's actually fun to see. And if we look back at all the other extreme overclocker in France, it's closely followed by Newell from the Aquapony Club. And then we have Doug Brown, Raddy, Doug Gregor, like all basically the top 20 of the overclockers, extreme overclockers in France. They all know each other. It's not part of like different part of the country. They come from different part of the countries, but they all know each other and they usually exchange with each other. I know that there's Dark Gregor as well on the live chat. Shout out to you, Dark Gregor. You're actually 5th French overclocker in the Extreme League, which is interesting. But you're losing point. This actually today you lose 1 place, so you have to move on and do something. Wink, wink.
Wink, wink.
And if we move to the professional overclocker league, the first French overclocker in that league is Hwr. I think most of you guys know him as well. I mean, Hwr have been quite active doing demos and being part of some of the big competition as well. He got just last week 3 lightning cards, the 1080 Ti Lightning Z. So he will be able to test them very soon, and I expect him to maybe do some live. I hope so. So we'll see what happens in the next few days.
I saw his announcement of the 1080 Ti's turning up. That'll be interesting to see what he can manage to do with those. He also, I think just today, Tom's Hardware published an article written by him about liquid nitrogen overclocking on Ryzen, where he tested like a lot of CPUs.
Yeah. He almost did almost the complete series except the Ryzen 3.
Well, that's because those haven't launched yet.
Yeah, that's the whole. That's my point.
Every single launched one. Yeah. He's covered every single launched one. If you can buy it, he's tested it on liquid nitrogen, and it's covered in the article. Admittedly, it's not like a huge sample size because it's 10 CPUs total, and it's not like he tested, 100 1800Xs and 100 of this.
Well, come on. Not everyone have 200 hours a week to do that, but yeah.
But it's still more data than just nothing, which is what you usually end up with.
True.
Or you end up going through like HWBOT rankings and trying to figure out, figure
out what's going on.
And those are often really skewed by guys who just bin.
Yeah, really.
So yeah, and you also have the issue of like some hardware is just not very popular. So it's like, okay, what can I expect it to do? No idea. Nobody's benched it.
Benched it. True.
Yeah. So that's really, really cool of him. Like it's a, that article, that's really awesome. I haven't really seen a lot of content from him, but then again, he's French, so I guess I couldn't read it even if I saw it most of the time.
Well, Google Translate is your friend. Oui, baguette, fromage, and wine, and that's all you need to know. If we actually have a look at the other extreme, like professional overclockers, so Elite League. There's Strat that doesn't bench that much anymore, but still very large amount of points. Salkish, Bob Le Magnifique that doesn't bench at all for a while. Marmot that doesn't bench at all for a while. Pale that doesn't bench at all for a while. So, for example, if we, I have to share that with you guys. If you look at Hwr that have like 1800 points, which is like quite high. Strat that have 1200 points, which is still high. Salkish in the elite have the same amount of points as some novices. Like 700. And then if you look at Bob Le Magnifique, some of the novice as well, and then we drop very low in terms of number of points. Like Pale is like 400, Marmot is like 150, but Marmot haven't benched for the past like 4 or 5 years. I mean, he's working for Hwr X now, but it doesn't bench anymore.
Right.
Like Pepino, I mean, Pepino is the same. It's 11 points, but Pepino was benching in the Overclocking Night team, so that was like it was still benching, but under another name. So that's no. If you look at this, there's a lot of space for French overclockers in the Elite League, but it's a lot of investment, of course, like in time and contact with people.
True. Even the hardware requirements to be competitive in this league are pretty high.
Yeah. There's one thing as well. It's like the teams themselves. If we have to look for the French team in the team league, so the amount of points that a team have in terms of total amount of points, keep in mind that the France is number 5 in the world in terms of total of points in countries, but it's only at the 30th place, 30 and 31st. 30. So 30 is Clan OC, which is still active, but not that much have a dynamic of growing, while Cocotlan is actually 31st, and they're actually trying to catch up on Clan OC. So I guess with the Team Cup and all that, I guess Cocotlan will pass Clan OC in the next few weeks. I don't think they will make it to the top 20 though.
I think so, very easily, because they've been extremely active, and also they also do a lot of work for the community in terms of reviews and stuff like that, right? If I'm not mistaken. They have a proper website that does tech reviews and stuff like that. So they're very active right now. I would totally expect, given their track record, they'll be up in the top 20s pretty soon.
If we look at the team ranking in France, that's Clan OC and Cocotlan, very close from each other. Honestly, there's 150 points difference. So
yeah.
That's super tight. Then we have Gmax Hardware. Then we have Asus Baguette. Of course, very French name of a team. And then we move on to Extreme Overclockers of France, which is the default team. UFH, that used to be a team that was supposed to gather all the French-speaking people, but that never took off. Enthusiast of France, default team for Enthusiast. So there's like just between the Extreme Overclockers of France and Enthusiast of France, there's a lot of people there that don't belong to any teams. That will be very helpful for some of these teams to actually climb up towards the top 20 of the team ranking. That's quite a thing. So as I said, there was a lot of the guys. There's no hardware master from France in the top 20. Sadly, seems like we don't like to bench a lot of hardware. And there is something, if you look at the rankings, I think it's Newell that is number 8 in the world. Yes, Newell is actually number 8 in the world of the competition points. So that means all the competition that you participate in will give you points. And actually in the top 10 we have one French guy that is Newell from the Aqua Pony Club. And Newell as well thought that he was like stopping, and I will do it like this, like stopping. It was basically reducing the amount of time he was spending into overclockings. But still, I mean, this guy is very close from some of the people that compete in all the live competitions. But the key point is, if you guys want to do it and manage to keep some ass of the guys, well, you can do it if you actually compete in the online competition as well.
They should be,
So
I'm just sad to see Nailu and all these guys pull back a little bit, but it's just understandable. And I love the name. I love the name Aqua Pony Club. That's just, you guys have some really cool names when it comes to France. Aqua Pony Club, Aces Baguette. I mean, whoever's coming up with these names, like, good job.
So that's it from on my side for the French one. I hope that you like the retrospection of all the French overclocker and all the French team. And if you want your country or your team to be displayed in the OC show, let us know in the live chat, of course. All right, Tullius. So what's next for the show?
Yeah, and then so moving on, we've got a lot of cool stuff happening in the hardware world as well. You know, you've got the big announcement from Intel about the AMD EPYC CPUs that they claim are glued together. I mean, what? it's.
I mean, have Intel checked what they used for thermal paste?
Cheap shot. That's a cheap shot.
I mean, it's no worse than what they did. What they're saying about AMD's EPYC CPUs being glued together desktop chips. You know, it's like they're designed to do that. You know, that's kind of the whole point of a Ryzen CPU, is that you can take lots of them and glue them together.
And I mean, what about you know, Bloomfield and Infield and all the other
Core 2 Duos?
Exactly. Hey, if it works and if it gives us the performance, who gives a shit? Honestly, at least for most of the people. I can imagine that, you know, these things won't be that competitive in like the ultra high-end HPC market and stuff, where like Intel just rules and, you know, it's all about latency and stuff like
where
that.
Even like IBM has a hard time keeping up with Intel, but
true.
For a lot of the sort of where it's just like, I need a lot of cores, they don't need to be super fast, they don't use AVX 512 or any kind of that extensions, then EPYC makes perfect sense there.
Perfect sense.
But the thing is, with data centers, they still take forever to swap out from, you know, like, because they probably have a contract with Intel, which is like, okay, so we have this generation of CPUs, you'll swap us out to the next gen of CPUs and the next gen and the next gen. So for a lot of these, you know, just switching on a dime because, oh, look, this new architecture came out, isn't gonna, like, that's just not gonna happen, because there's a certain level of lock-in they have, and there's a cost, like,
they pay like, you know, I'd say 50% of like the sticker price, or even lesser for the sticker price for the big Xeons. Like, I don't think any of the big boys are paying $13,000, $14,000, $15,000 for those CPUs. I seriously doubt it.
Actually, there was there's a video on the RAMD on Reddit that the EPYC guy Scott Ayler was starting like his keynote was like so there's a theory out there that EPYC is just 4 desktop processors glued together, and then he went on explaining why for them it makes more sense to do it this way. So,
I mean, even then,
that's a nice battle. I mean, that's a nice battle, though.
It is.
I think honestly, it's just kind of desperate from Intel. These CPUs just came out. They're not proven. They look really good on paper. We haven't seen any like non-AMD run benchmarks. We haven't, like, you know, there's like, if you're a data center, you need to have some level of validation on the CPUs. There needs to be a support level. It's like, if you're Intel right now, worrying about EPYC, I think, like, this is a little overboard.
It is, and I mean, it just goes to show that there is a certain amount of panic in there. You know,
and the other thing is, with the desktop thing, it's honestly, Ryzen is more like server chips that got chopped up into desktop parts. Because if you look at a Ryzen CPU, right, you have a ton of the Infinity Fabric link-ups that are specifically designed for connecting CPUs to other CPUs. And guess what you're not using in every single desktop Ryzen chip, which is a single die. Well,
the Infinity Fabric one.
So you have all of this extra silicon on there, which is only meant for server use. You have PCIe lanes that the desktop chips don't have, because those are only meant for server use. The other thing is, the Ryzen chips are designed as an SoC, which isn't capable enough for a desktop application, which is why we have chipsets like X370, B350. It's to basically add on the extra functionality that is necessary for the desktop market, that, like, on servers, like a Ryzen CPU as is has enough connectivity that you're fine. Especially once you scale it up to the Naples chips, which have access to the full PCIe bandwidth, and you get like 128 lanes on the 4-die monstrosities. So it's like, those in their SoC design, it's like very much the Ryzen die is designed for, okay, it's designed to be intentionally glued together, but ultimately it's like, it's built to do that, and it's really meant for servers, because the whole SoC thing, it's like, you put this in a server, you don't need a chipset in the servers. The servers don't come with a extra chipset thing. That's a desktop only thing.
There's one thing as well, that the Ryzen chip have ECC memory support, which is not available on anything except the Xeon lineup or at Intel.
Yeah,
well,
I mean,
that's just Intel being Intel. It's like, oh, we can't let i7s have ECC or people stop buying the Xeons.
But it's okay. I mean, there was some times where people could buy Xeons, like the SR2 from NVGA.
Yeah,
you could buy Xeons to overclock them.
That wasn't Intel being intentional.
Yeah, I mean, it was not intended by Intel, but I think they did like, oh wait, we don't want people to do that anymore. Well, there was one manufacturer, and I don't think they sold that many motherboards, but yeah.
They just said you're having way too much fun for next to no money. No one's buying our really expensive Xeons. You just overclock them. And
yeah, it was like, because you could overclock pretty much everything, and for Intel, that's just a catastrophe. It's like, oh, we need to...
But once again, I mean, look at them.
Nobody's going to buy our high bins except for like very, very specific customers who absolutely desperately need that.
Well, if you look at the market, Intel still have a huge chunk of the market on the server and on the desktop. Well, okay, it's got a little bit hidden up by Ryzen. Still, it's not.
Like EPYC, you can't really even buy EPYC CPUs right now.
No, and the only way you will be able to buy it is not from Intel or in the shop. You have to buy a Dell server, an IBM power server. You have to buy like a HP enterprise servers as well. That's gonna be like enterprise class. I mean, the CPU is like $8,000.
Yeah.
For the Xeon or the Ryzen's?
The Xeon one. The Ryzen one, the EPYC one, I think is like 6,000 something.
No, 4K.
4K, okay, 4K.
But yeah,
what the $13,000 a CPU for the ones that scale up to 8 sockets.
There's gonna be people paying for it. I mean, there's need for it.
Yeah.
Oh, and the multi-socket CPUs, those aren't glued together either, are they? It's like you are literally just using a motherboard to stick them together.
Exactly.
Honestly, I don't know who made that slide.
Like
I don't know.
Intel marketing just ran out of ideas.
If you look at the slides, if you look closely at the slide,
like, oh wait, AMD's competitive. How do we make it look like they aren't?
Exactly, and I mean they've actually compared 8-core $2,000 Xeon versus 1800X that's been downclocked to 2.2 gigahertz.
Well, I think that was the whole downclock thing was to simulate like. Does AMD sell 8-core server chips? I'm not aware of any. So.
But I mean, if you look closely at the slides, like the leaks that were on Tech Power Up or on Overclock 3D, if you look at the bottom left of the slides, it's Intel Press Workshop. That means this is actually something they showed to the press that was never intended to be public. And I think some people went full return and it's like, no, you cannot say that. You have to understand that in the industry, most of the time you have the sales kit that are never supposed to be public at any point. And you have like brand XYZ compared directly with brand XYT, for example. And they compared features so salespeople can argument on that. But basically, these slides should never leak out. So officially, those slides are always under NDA. For the press workshop, maybe that was one of the the catchphrases they wanted to have by the press to be told. Well, it fired back at some point. Like,
I mean, you publish something like you show people something that is just so like you show this to people that it's like so ballantly ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. It's not like dumb or anything. It's just like
it's silly.
Why would you come up with such a weak argument? Because it's like, what is this?
Actually,
it's like saying, oh, but they're taller than us or shorter than us. It's like, who cares?
And if you know a little bit more about the server ecosystem, if you look at the data center ecosystem and all that, there's a lot of specifications that are very important for the people taking care of that.
Yeah, like,
the first one is the ecosystem. So are you sure to be able to buy the CPUs for a longer term? And that was one of the things that AMD announced, that you will be able to buy your CPU for the next 18 to 24 months. It's like, it was like extended period of time. If you build something on it, you will be able to replace it. You won't have to upgrade things, because when people actually do data centers, they want to swap, and when they swap architecture, they don't want to mix the different architecture, because otherwise it's very difficult to, like for example, per rack, it's difficult to actually guess the charge and the load you can do on it. You have to the electricity, the power consumptions, the cooling requirements you have. There's a lot more from that, like the storage speed, the storage argument. If you do HPC, so high power PC instead of, you have to take care of all that, and you cannot just change one blade with a new CPU, because the workload would change, the power consumptions might change, the cooling solution might change as well. So all that is like, people don't like it, especially people in data centers. They don't really like that. They prefer to have like one rack of all the same system. So let's say like one rack of IBM blades, like one rack of Dell 4U system, one rack of HPE. And most of the time, they don't want to have multiple vendors. So they will stick with one vendors, and the ecosystem is where it actually get into the things. Dell will always make all the servers you want. But the one you really want to have long-term support is the one that have a good ecosystem.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and that's also why I'm saying that, Intel's like this jabbing is like, isn't this a little premature? Because like AMD still needs to prove that they can sustain a good server ecosystem. I mean, Ryzen, we've already seen that they're patching a lot of sort of
microcodes and all that.
Yeah, there's been a ton of patching to microcode, memory support. We do have the new Silicon revision coming out for EPYC and Threadripper. So
they fixed a lot of the stuff. Like, I mean, they have.
And then there's the other thing is like, so I don't know. It just seems really, really weak. Kind of overreacting from Intel.
Kind of desperate.
But once again, that's something we don't know. Was that Intel directly? Was that the PR for Intel? Was that something someone asked the PR to do this? But once again, it's Intel branding a name on an official press workshop, which is, I guess, a lot of people went like, yeah, we're used to have like bold claims, but it's more like, okay, this is not okay. This is going too far. And to be honest, I think the AMD guys are answering quite good to that.
If they just slapped like one of those horrifically scaled graphs where they have like a 1% performance advantage and it looks like it's double.
That's usually NVIDIA. NVIDIA is usually doing that.
That's like, we see that all the time. But when you just go like, oh, these CPUs are glued together, it's like, so what is a QPI link, Intel? What is a QPI link? Tell me what in the hell is your QPI link? It's the same as Infinity Fabric. So it's just so ridiculous what they went with here. That's why I think it's stirred up so much drama, really.
Yeah.
It's just
I like the way that Scott Ayler from EPYC the Tech Day, he said breaking Moore's law. Breaking Moore's law is what we did with Infinity Fabric. So it's directly pitching up at Intel with Gordon Moore, with the Moore's law that says, oh, you have trouble finding the Moore's law. We find a way to do it. It's like,
well, actually, that Moore's law, the name doesn't make a ton of sense because it's basically the whole stipulation. It's more like the general rule of thumb is that every 18 months we will be able to cram twice as many transistors on a given amount of silicon.
That doesn't mean it's going to be twice faster.
That doesn't mean anything about speed. That doesn't mean
performance as well. Just we can make more transistors on the same space.
Yeah. It basically just tells you, okay, there's more transistors in a certain amount of space. It doesn't do a performance thing. And so Moore's law is just like, it's not really a law because as we've currently seen, we're not really managing to double transistor density every 18 months. Like everybody's having massive issues with it. We've had node skips for a lot of things, like 20 nanometer GPUs never existed just because it's 20 nanometer never worked. For any high power designs. So
it's just I mean, it's good to see. It's definitely good to see from AMD that they're actually pushing
they've got a system where it's like, okay, so in a world where we can't put more logic onto the same size die, we can just make more dies at the same production cost, or smaller dies and reduce production costs, because your main problem is big dies have low yield. If you have high yield, you don't really care that the total amount of silicon is going to be super massive, because you can, like, that's ultimately cheaper than failures.
That's true.
Well, you can afford to lose more chip per the wafer you use, but
yeah.
Let's not talk about yields here, because we're gonna go there for like 3 hours.
So yeah, basically the big news this week was, Lisa Su in her video showed off Ryzen, the performance of Ryzen, Threadripper, also said Vega's launching really quick, and the prices were released. So you've got the 12 core at $800, and you've got the 16 core at $1,000, which is, I think, very good value for money. the Ryzen 3 is definitely going to shake the market up as well. It's going to be a very good option for the i3s and the Pentium market.
I mean, Ryzen 3 is 4-core, 4-thread, so
yes,
you're looking at like i5 class performance with overclocking support.
Yeah, it's gonna hurt.
It's like okay, so let's see. Ryzen 5 as of right now is like $160 for the bottom of the barrel chip, and then Ryzen 3 is like you're going below that. What we now have a quad core
at about 100.
4 actual real cores for probably approaching $100.
Yep.
With motherboards that can overclock, like, it's like, I know that X370 exists and all that, but ultimately, if you're overclocking the quad cores or even the 6 cores, you don't need a good motherboard for overclocking Ryzen. Even the 8 core, if you know what you're doing, you can get away with running it on a 4-phase VRM. You have to be a bit careful, but you can do it. It's doable.
Yep.
So it's like you can get a Ryzen 3 for close to $100, a motherboard under $100,
fun.
and it'll overclock and it'll perform really, really nicely. And it's like, where's your i3s now?
Talking about overclocking, Sofos has totally destroyed the 6-core, 8-core, and 10-core global first place rankings. For 2D benchmarks, he's just come in and hammered away. This was literally an assault. He's destroyed so many benchmarks in one go. It's not funny. I mean, this must have been several days of hard benching for sure.
Well, I'm pretty sure that since Computex, I'm pretty sure they benched since Computex.
It's Computex, true. Yeah.
Yeah. So the whole OC Lab gathering.
Yeah, a lot of really nice results.
It's very strong on 2D. That looks like the board is quite strong. It's by itself, but I'm not sure if that's a retail board by now because it's the X299 SoC Champion, which is not available right now. They say that's going to be available, but we don't know yet if that's going to be the case.
They've decided to make it retail because last I heard they weren't going to go retail with it.
The LN2 version will never be retail for sure. I'm not even sure they're going to do one.
LN2, there's a Champion.
No, actually, so how does it work with Gigabyte? They do the SoC Champion for the top platform.
No, Champion was new on X99.
No, for the HEDT platform. Platform. And for the regular platform, they call it the SoC Force. And they have the LN2 version of the Force.
No, there's an X99 SoC Force. It sucked. That's why they canceled it.
And that's why they did the Champion after.
Yeah, because Force didn't have an OC socket, so it was completely useless for overclocking in the end. And then they ended up doing a Champion. So there's going to be X299 SoC Champion. Is that going to be a 4-DIM or is it going to be an 8-DIM?
It does look like it's a 4-DIM.
4-DIM board.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, knowing Gigabyte, I mean, come on, X299 SoC Champion, you will for sure not put 8-DIM on that because no one will use them.
No, but Gigabyte's the ones who managed to ship a Z270X gaming SoC board with 4 DIMMs when everybody else has a 2-DIM extreme overclocking board for LGA 1151. And Gigabyte has a 4-DIM. And instead, and actually this is something that, Lumi, when he was talking about getting a Gigabyte board for Beat the Heat, he was saying he's getting the ITX one because Gigabyte has done that it's sort of like ROG with the Impact before the Apex existed. Like if you wanted good memory performance, you bought the ITX Impact board because that outperformed the Extreme in terms of memory overclocking. So Gigabyte's sort of done the same thing where now you have the Gaming 5 ITX board, which has, I think, it has all the LN2 settings available. It works with their little OC dongle that you can't buy.
Yeah.
And that's like the memory board for Z270, and then you also have the big board with 4 DIMMs, and then there's also the SoC Force for Z170, which was a 4-DIM board, and then there was an LN2 version of that, which was a 2-DIM, but that never went retail.
That never made it to the market.
So Gigabyte has been kind of like Gigabyte and their motherboard stuff is kind of a mess.
I just hope this board makes it to market because definitely like to see
Like, yeah, I mean, recently got the X99 sock.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's because that was a really nice X99 board. And it was actually at like a reasonable price because it is a stripped down board. Like there's there's kind of extra audio, but they stripped down most of the excess fluff on the board, so it didn't end up costing a ton. So yeah, I'm hoping they do something similar for the X299 SoC Champion if it ends up going retail. That's the question here.
That's
certainly a capable board based on the scores we've seen.
I still have this one, UD7X79, which was the previous one before they did the Champion and SoC Force.
But that wasn't like.
But that one was like, well, it works, but that was not the best X79 motherboard.
Well, X79 was generally a mess. It's like the only motherboard anybody really used was the Rampage 4 and then the Rampage 4 Black Edition. Yeah, that is like the only.
Which had other issues, but yeah.
Wait, the X79 Black Edition had issues?
USB issues.
That was a very strong board.
Yeah, the board is strong in overclocking, but once you try to plug more than 6 USB, it's starting to just completely go like unstable for no reasons. I know we ditched them for using for the lives.
Wow. Yeah, but those are extreme.
Because we could not connect enough USB plug to it.
It's like the ROG boards. It's like, oh yeah, these are totally gaming boards, and then they're great for extreme overclocking. Like I'd never noticed that issue.
Of course, because no one tests. I mean, honestly, no one tests that. Because we are the only stupid one to plug that many USB stuff that are latency dependent on it.
But all of the BCLK, like the X79, Z68, like all of the old-fashioned BCLK, where the BCLK was tied to everything on the system, like Skylake and KB Lake decoupled that.
Yeah.
But in the past, when the BCLK was tied to everything, if you were pushing BCLK overclocks, the more stuff you put in the USB could affect stability somewhat, in my experience. Like I had a few cases where it's like the board wasn't booting. I unplugged all of the USB and then it boots, and then you can plug in the bare minimum and it would run.
Or the board that you plug the keyboard in USB and it's not detected.
That happens a lot.
Way too much.
Way too much.
It's random. It's like I've had it on Z270. I've had it doesn't matter. It's like literally you plug in. Oh, and actually that's even better. Sometimes the PS2 works. Sometimes it doesn't.
And just to come back one last time.
Into issues. No, here's the worst one. I've had a DVI cable that was bad. A dead DVI cable.
How can that even happen?
It's What do you expect?
That died in my,
He's hard on this stuff.
Well.
So, is your second name Murphy? Billzoid, is your second name Murphy? Because Murphy's Law is definitely for you. It's like, oh, it should work like this. No, it doesn't. Oh, it should not work like this. Yes, it does. It's like, what the hell? It doesn't work. Well, anyway, hey, just coming back to the score. I like the way that we have the pink hairdryer on the picture. And if you guys, okay,
I feel flattered that somebody else also uses a hairdryer.
This one is not Sofos.
Use a heat gun, use a torch. Hairdryer.
This is not Sofos hairdryer. That's HWBOT hairdryer. There's a lot of jokes going on with HWBOT. He used to have a pink iPhone, and I don't know which was the first one, the pink iPhone or the pink hairdryer. But the pink hairdryer, he does travel with it. When he go to workshop at Intel and so on, he travel with it. He's actually taking the plans to go to Intel in the next few days. He's taking the pink hairdryer
to warm up the paw.
Yes.
I think he's got it pointed at the memory, just keeping his B-die warm.
Yeah, it could be that, and the avoid the VRM to be too cold, otherwise it's not gonna work as well.
Yeah.
Wait, vCore VR.
The VRM one, because you have the blow only on one side. It doesn't have that on the other side of the CPU. And if I recall correctly, they were using 2 sticks and not only 1. So if that was for the memory, it should have actually put 2 on each, one on each side.
Is that photo from 740K or is that from an 8-core run? Because for 8-core, you would have all 4 DIMMs on the board occupied, and if you're...
Well, it looks like he's got 2 sticks in there. In the picture, it looks like he's got 2 sticks.
I can't find a bigger version of the picture, so. Like, if that's 7740K, then he's only heating up one side of the pot because that's like the only memory he has in there.
Yeah, that does look like what he's doing.
Because VRMs, I like X299 VRMs and heat output, they should be pretty good about keeping themselves warm.
That's true. No, but I think because you can clearly see he's got 2 DIMMs plugged in there. You can see the 2 white stickers. So I think he's just keeping the B-die warm because you can't see any heat spreader on there. So.
I mean, even with a heat spreader, you definitely, like, I've hair dried my B-die.
Yeah.
I've hair dried a DDR3 even.
Yeah, true. And very good to see. Really nice. Well, you can see High Cookie in the video there.
But that was not the same run. I mean, this one was what they did at the right after Computex when you had like the Australian guy and Vivi benching at the OC lab. But the score from Sofos are not from that time. I don't think that they could have hold up the score for like a month. They could not hold that. I mean, there's way too much chance that someone's gonna break that. So, I mean, I guess that's just something they were just basically like doing in the last few days at the labs.
Few days, yeah, I think so too. And talking about new stuff in the last few days. The HWBOT X265 benchmark finally has points for 1080p and for 4K, which is awesome. There's a new benchmark to bench. Yay! I love it when new benchmarks launch. I mean, it just, you see like this insane rush of
stay doing Cinebench. It's like, oh, new benchmark, another thing I'm never gonna use.
No, well, but there's some really good points happening with this benchmark right now.
And yeah, and the good point is it's working on all versions of Windows, so it's not like it's not something that is banned from running on Windows 8.1 and Windows 8 because it's like all the timer thing issue, which is very obscure for some of the newcomers. That there's some benchmark you cannot use on some OSs because there's no way to validate correctly that the speed you are actually the real one. And so basically, this one is not prone to this issue. And so, yeah, the 1080p and 4K settings are now allowed. That's good.
That's really good. I mean, there's some massive points already happening. If you look at the HWBOT homepage, just like people on Water with like 4.7, 4.8 gigahertz runs on the 8-core, 10-core Intels are scoring 60, 70, 80 points. So lots of points to be made here.
That's because the LN2 guys haven't hit their eyes and attention to it.
Yep. But it'll come. But good to see. There's another benchmark that can yield you some points. It's just.
Well, I mean, the thing is, we have very freaking old benchmark. I know, like Super Pi 1M. This is freaking old. I mean, come on. It's like a mono-thread benchmark.
It doesn't even run well on anything but Windows XP.
It's like okay. I guess I understand that people love it. I understand that it's a very quick way of testing. I understand that people are very used to it and they know a lot of tricks for it. But I mean, we need to have new benchmark as well that have way more things that
don't like the whole like, oh, you need to do this to Windows and your Windows needs to be purple or it doesn't score properly. It's like
no, it doesn't score purplely. You didn't get the joke. It didn't score purplely.
It's like Super Pi, like the Waza thing. The olive green theme and the Luna theme, the fact that you even need to use Windows XP in the first place at all is just like
on a platform that's not supposed to support it.
I mean, Windows 7 doesn't even have proper, like, you can't even properly install Windows 7 through USB ports on Z270, and it's like, go install Windows XP.
True.
Good luck.
Good luck, really.
Yeah, basically it's like Super Pi, the world record for Super Pi is a race for whoever manages, like, new platform comes out, race for who can make
Windows XP
work, and then you can finally actually go break the world record. It's like the first part of the benchmark is making Windows XP run, which is like, honestly, like, I get that some people really, really enjoy that side of overclocking, but personally, the less I have to deal with software complaining about things I want to do.
Because the hardware is already complaining way too much for you anyway.
Yeah. It's like, I'm trying to keep the freaking thing running. don't also throw random like errors, requirements. It's like, no, it's just a pain. So is the X265 at all memory intensive? Because obviously I've not run the benchmark ever. I know it exists, but
yeah, I mean, everything.
Give it a run. I mean, give it a run. Even you guys at home, give it a run. I mean, that's easy. It's super. It's not that long. I mean, the 4K one is maybe like a minute and 45 seconds.
Personally, I've been like one thing for me is like I think the problem is like SuperPi is this really good memory single core performance benchmark. That's why it's so like that's why
because it's very raw as well.
That's
I mean, if there's a new benchmark, if there's a new benchmark that is single threaded, heavy dependent on memory, people will start using it, right?
True. Yeah, I could see it. But here's the thing, it's like it would just be a case of making X265 run on one core. Really. you could make an X265 version that's single threaded. I don't know if the memory requirement would fall off a cliff maybe, but we need a new single-threaded memory-intensive benchmark.
So the guys complain that there's not enough core for performance, and then say we need to have a single-threaded benchmark again.
No, because it's like,
well, because
I can see the appeal in SuperPi being a single-threaded benchmark. That's the only reason why I would ever run it. It's single-threaded. It doesn't put out a ton of heat. It's good for memory testing. It's not a hard benchmark. You know, it's like you want to run X265 or something at stupid high frequency. It's just not happening. It burns a ton of liquid nitrogen. You know, it just like SuperPi is this benchmark that you can run relatively low cost, right? It's about memory performance. You can run it on an i3 and you won't really be behind an i7. You can run it on an i5, you won't really be behind an i7. And then you have a bunch of benchmarks like X265 where it's like, well, if you have a 7600K, you're honestly kind of boned because you don't have hyperthreading, and hyperthreading doesn't count as more cores. So,
yeah. No, that's
though i3s have another benchmark that they can play in. Admittedly, I think i3s will probably take a while to actually finish X265.
Yeah,
the 1080p version is not that bad. The 4K, yeah, of course.
Because I think it's one of the most useful benchmarks, honestly, if you ask me, because it does use the new X265 encoder.
It's an actual encoding benchmark. Like, this is something a lot of people might actually run. Like, if you're streaming or something, you might actually, or encoding video for whatever reason, then this is like something you might actually do. Whereas SuperPi, I have no idea.
The thing is, there's no real case for SuperPi performance as reference. So 40% increase, like best core in SuperPi, doesn't mean anything for most of the people. While a 40% increase on H265 encoding benchmark will mean 40% increase on someone that do encoding anyway.
Is X265 like even remotely related to like the handbrake encoder? Or
it's pretty similar. It's not
similar.
I don't think
it's not
related
directly
to the
related.
encoder, but yeah,
like that's the nice thing with like Cinebench. It's literally Cinema 4D, except stripped down to the point where it's a benchmark. We should get a Blender benchmark on HWBOT.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome.
Cool.
Like, I would be honest with you guys. I have my own opinion on that, and like a lot of viewers might disagree with that. It's like, in my opinion, if a benchmark is not relevant to at least its niche, it doesn't need to belong to stay alive. SuperPi is still relevant to the overclockers, so that's good to keep it.
Yeah.
But if you look at the overall market of people, it's like, do a benchmark that is relevant for one specific workload. So, for example, encoding on Premiere. I don't want to encode, load Premiere and things. Like, yes, that's going to be a great use case, but encoding, I'm just going to use H265 encoding, and that's it.
That's it. Yeah. So I do like the usage case scenario for this. This is something that, you know, if system integrators and stuff like that catch on to, you know, this is something that they can actually quote that, you know, we're encoding at so and so. You can compare it. This is a benchmark that they can download and run themselves. So this has potential to make sense to a lot of like render farms or like, you know, massive video transcode guys and stuff like that. This will help. It's a useful benchmark for sure. And it does scale with cores. I mean, I've actually seen it scale up with like really high core count CPUs as well. So that's good to see.
There was someone. Usually we don't take the question directly during the show, but I think this one is worth to have as a closing note for the things. There was a question: what is the difference between SuperPy and like what was like a rendering of Blender or 3D Light or Cinebench? The main difference is SuperPy is one thread, super short calculation most of the times. Like one is like below 10 seconds and the other one is below like 5 minutes. And it's only one thread. So it's gonna be like one core, and not even the hyperthreading will change anything into that. While it's
on an ancient instruction set that literally
it's very old
it's
instruction
on
set as well.
Yeah. So like x87, like AMD actually disabled x87 on FX.
FX and Phenoms as well.
For FX CPUs, so that you could re-enable the x87 instruction stuff, instruction optimizations. And the only reason why, SuperPy. It's literally the only thing that uses that instruction set that you might actually run these days. And so it's an old benchmark.
It's an old benchmark, old instruction.
This is a stress test.
And it's not really relevant to anyone else beside overclockers. And while we have Blender...
Like using it for memory.
Yeah, but still, it just gives you an indication. It's not very... I mean, if you want to test your memory, there's other benchmark that will do it very, like, much more than just SuperPy. And the thing is, when you have, like, SuperPy that is one thread, and you have, like, Blender and the 3D rendering that are... they use all the cores. And they're supposed to scale with the number of cores, logical or physical cores that you have.
Yeah.
So it's not testing the same kind of workload, like encoding on one core CPU. I mean, no one uses a CPU with one core and doing encoding anyway. That's why people were so crazy about Ryzen, because there's so many cores.
That's true.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, but like with actually speaking of the memory benchmarks, there's not good memory benchmarks. There's not really good memory benchmarks. Like you have a bunch of the synthetics.
Memtest x86.
Like what?
The Memtest.
Well, no, I'm not talking about Memtest.
It's not a benchmark though, so yeah.
I mean, even like IDA 64 has that memory testing feature. And even just today, AMD published a memory performance sort of timings versus clocks versus that kind of thing for Ryzen. And it's like IDA is completely opposite to every other real-world workload for like in terms of performance scaling for memory overclocking, which is like, so the test is completely and utterly useless, is basically what you're saying. Because it's like, if you run games, or, well, they were using games, and they didn't really run anything like Cinebench or some kind of other CPU benchmark, but they basically went like, okay, so we have these IDA tests, which say these memory settings should be the fastest. And then you look at all the game tests, and it's the exact opposite of what IDA says. And it's just like, well, what a useless benchmark is that, isn't it? That's why I don't do like memory synthetics, because they're useless. It's like SuperPy is bad in terms of being really exaggerated, but at least it's easy for like if you're doing testing, you can see if you actually made an improvement or not. But
yeah, I know what you mean. I know exactly what you mean. SuperPy is not going anywhere. I mean, it's Overclocker's favorite. I really enjoy running it. Yes, it's irritating to get XP running, or like if I kill my XP install, I feel like slamming myself, because it's just like, oh boy, here we go again. And yeah, but I totally get your point, because we do want something that is like SuperPy, that can kind of take its place and is still more useful in a way, like in terms of like, okay, you run that benchmark and your memory stable and it's quick, just like SuperPy, like 7-10 seconds. Yeah, you're done.
If you're running 32 mil, because 32 mil is the one that really shows you what's happening.
Shows you whether your memory is capable.
Like, I usually test, if I want quick testing, I run 8 million, but 32 million is also a bit of a stress test at that point. Like, it'll like 8 mil will pass things that 32 mil will crash on.
Yeah. And I mean, Quasar puts another whole different load on your memory. So, I mean, I've had sticks that run 12, 11, 11.
Well, I usually, at that point, it's like, if I'm just testing for daily, then it's like run 32M. And if that passes, then move on to an actual memory test like Memtest.
Memtest, yeah.
But
pretty much the same, yeah.
Yeah, but you won't, like, Yeah, that's kind of what I
well,
use SuperPIE for.
Well, yeah.
I'm running out of words.
Oh my god, is that even possible? That's gonna be the first time.
Actually, no.
Holy hell, that's the first time.
No, but my thought process just sort of hit a wall where it's like, oh, I have no idea where we're going from here. You know, it was the branch misprediction.
Well, moving on then, in that case, you know, there was a really interesting post from the Overclocker Magazine about a completely change, you know, the way they kind of do their testing, or the way they kind of, you know, give awards, or actually rather the fact that they're stopping awards totally. And yeah, I mean, this can go three ways, because there's obviously the consumer, there's the reviewer, and then there's the company involved here. So there's three different points of view here, but I think we can understand from where, you know, they're also coming from. Because at the end of the day, I think they were feeling like they've kind of diversified, or they moved away from their core, which was always extreme overclocking, and, you know, this is what this gear can do under liquid nitrogen, and that's that. And they started doing a lot more of you know, the other stuff, including reviews and things. So I think for them it's a step in the right direction, but I'd love to hear, you know, like your views on this as well, because this is definitely a very interesting point of view, and from the marketing point of view, from the company's point of view, from a lot of points of view here. So,
well, basically, I mean, what happened is the overclockers run by Neo Cibeco is one of the external overclockers. That's the only online magazine, not the website, that was doing, like, they try to be on track every month, but we know it's always like a variable that need to be adjusted. Depends on how the benchmark finish. And it's always fun to read, and it's on the magazine type, so it's like an online magazine. And they had like this review of games and review of hardware in the past and things. And I will be honest, like, I mean, I read all the issues, but most of the times I will drop the reviews when it's not talking about how does it overclock, because that's not something I care. I mean, if I want to know how does it perform in, like, Gotham City or Arkham Knight games, like, I don't care. I'll be honest, I don't care. I don't game. I don't have the time to game. That's not what I read the overclockers for. And in my opinion, I've been in the press before. I've been in the other side as well with the open benchable thing, and it's like, to me, awards, if you have some, sure. I mean, just fine, sure, why not? But pushing for sums, I know some of the company do it. I know why. It's good for reports. It's an easy measurement as well. But it's freaking meaningless in something like the overclocker. It's meaningless.
True.
It's like, oh yeah, it does not break under a negative and 130 degrees.
But the thing is, it's like it doesn't break at minus 130. It's like, well, do that with 5 of them, and you'll probably run into one that does. You know, there's some inconsistency there. But yeah, it's like, giving out awards when you're like an extreme overclocking magazine, it's just like I kind of do awards now on my own blog, but it's like I don't review that much, but it's like I don't like them. I don't really know what to award most of the time. It's like, well, the VRM doesn't suck. If you know what you're doing, you can run it on the
VRM doesn't suck, the time award.
Yeah, I mean,
VRM doesn't suck award. Cooler is okay.
Your engineers could have do better VRM award. Actually, you should do awards for shitty stuff.
But it's
I mean, at the most, you know, you could say, yeah, okay, you know, I approve of it or something like that, and we, you know, we don't think it sucks.
But it's like I don't feel like, a lot of the time it's like with a lot of the awards, it feels like you're trying to pick a favorite, and then there's a lot of sites where it's like you just give everyone awards. It's literally participation trophies at this point for everyone. It's like, oh, you sent a motherboard in, it gets an award.
Yeah.
We don't know which one yet, but we have 50 different awards we can give out. We'll find one of them. And if there isn't one that fits your motherboard, we're going to make a new one.
And the most famous one is At Least It Boots award. No, okay, it is easy to bitch, but having on both sides of the, actually on the 3 sides of this issue, honestly, I do understand why the industry is asking for that, because that's one way, that's one KPI of measurement. The thing is, awards was something special, which is not anymore. I mean, some of the publication, I mean, online publication are starting giving awards for shit things.
I mean, I just said that. It's
we didn't add any issue. Yeah, obviously, hopefully you didn't add, but it's not because it's not broken that you need to have an award. You need to be good on very specific criteria. But if you have criteria for like best looking design, it's something totally personal to the reviewer. Like, I mean people hate design, people love designs. You have to make a choice there. But
yeah, I mean, if like a website, for example, if you do want to do awards, I'll give it like the best memory overclocker award. You know, I'll compare 3 boards and say, okay, this one clocks memory the best, or that one, you know, has the highest efficiency in Uni Engine Haven, or this one has the best efficiency for, say, 3D marker. But that's how if you're going to give awards, at least make them relevant, or, you know, at least, yeah, that's...
Yeah, but I mean, for the gaming market, it's like, well, the board boots, you can run 4.5 gigahertz on it. The BIOS isn't a maze. Though, really, honestly, it's like, with some of the things that, like, you see some board vendors do, it's like, I have no idea how these people can even think of seeing an award, except maybe that it boots, and that's all it does. Because, honestly, it's like, there's one vendor, which just, almost every generation, as far as I've been using their motherboards, every single board I've pretty much heard from from them, it's been a case of the board runs really, 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 really high stock voltage. Every generation. It's like, what? How do you manage to do this? Why does nobody cover this in like the review industry? It's like, I was dealing with this because I do some contract work, and basically for Gamers Nexus, and it's like, we had one of those boards in, and I'm like, Steve is telling me, yo, I have this board where KB Lake runs super hot, and I'm like, is it vendor X? And he's like, yeah, it's vendor X. How did you know? Well, it's because they always do it.
Yeah, they've got just super high default weak voltage.
Yeah, super high default voltage. It's like, I guess they can't figure out how to read the vid from the CPU or something, but it's like, why, like, at that point, it's like the board isn't eligible for any award because it doesn't work on a fundamental level. But yet you see this same vendor get awards from a ton of sites all the time. And it's just like, well, evidently you don't do any testing, do you? Because that's like a lot of the time, like Tech Power Up recently sort of diluted their reviewing for both memory, which I get that they dropped the OC part of their memory reviews. Because it just like some brands, it's like you get some memory sticks from one brand and you can buy 10 kits in a row and they're all different, like different ICs, completely different overclocking.
At least if you test the one you buy in the shop, that's something good. But there was a case with, I can't remember the brand, but it's okay. I don't want to name names.
They were shipping out.
They were shipping hand-picked RAM stick that were very good. But if you buy the same one in the shop, it's super crap.
Get the same ICs.
It's not, it's not the same revisions, not the same ICs. But the thing is, there is no control on that on the market. So the only control is supposed to be done by the press, but the press is highly dependent on the amount of hardware they get or the funding they get from the ads. Most of the big websites have an advertisement company taking care of the ads revenue, while they do take care of the reviews. But most of the non-professional one have the same people taking care of ads and review sampling. And once again, it's very easy, and it's extremely easy for the industry to say, I won't send you this new hardware before 2 months after the launch. And then you're fucked, because that's your only way to do. So you have to find ways. The second thing is, as everyone is doing it for free, that's it. You can always find someone else to do it cheaper than you. So you have to, and I think that's what the overclockers went with. Like, we were very, I don't think they always were through in what they did. The thing is, they were awarding awards, and they were having pressure on, oh, we didn't add an award last time, so we won't send you stuff now. Honestly, someone tell me that to me as a press, like not as I am now in different stuff. It's like, as a press guy, you would just say, so, well, fuck you. It's like, too bad. But then it's something you really want to test. What is left for you? You have to buy it. You have to spend money on something. You know a company is not supporting you. So there's like this whole incest thing going on that is not worthy for the community. It's not worthy for the consumers as well. Because then people will start being defying.
Very true. And a lot of this has to do with the, I mean, I don't know how it works elsewhere, but I think even here at least. So they've got the big guys have marketing companies or companies that look after like the marketing angle and, you know, send out samples and stuff like that. So if you get on the wrong side of the marketing guys over here, and it's not even the company people, it's you've got like advertisement agencies and stuff. And so if you get on their wrong side, you'll never ever see like a sample again, you know. So it comes to a point where at the end of the day, as a reviewer, you're reliant on getting samples. Otherwise, you have to spend money out of your own pocket. But if you actually, you know, hit them harsh or like you totally just like destroy their product, which if it's shit, you want to do. But at times I've seen.
But that's the thing. If it's shit, you will just not ship it to the reviewers because you know it's shit. And that's why some of the brands, and no. I'm not talking about the top 5 brands in the motherboard industry. I'm not talking about the top 8 brands in the memory industry, because these ones, they have to do it. They have to get something, and they have to send samples because at least one of them will give them good stuff. It's okay.
Yeah.
There's some brands that completely and utterly stop sitting people. So it's basically you want to test, you're gonna buy one.
Yeah.
So people say, oh, there's no bad reviews because there's only consumer reviews or oriented reviews that officially is forbidden to do, but sometimes people do it.
This is just, I mean, it's just take this as advice from a consumer and whatever, as a system integrator, as an overclocker, and as like a tech noob. I mean, as a complete noob and a geek and whatever you want to call me, but it's okay if people criticize your product. And this is my message to every single company. It's honestly, the way I look at it is, the companies that can come out in public and say, yes, we admit that there is a problem, or yes, we admit you're right, or yes, we admit that this part can't be pushed that hard. We have another SKU, or we have another part for that purpose. And we take your criticism and we'll improve with the next generation. And the ones that keep improving are the ones that will succeed. The ones that don't listen and the ones that say, yeah, screw you, you know, you don't know what you're doing, or you're the one guy that's, you know, actually bad mouthing us and 9 other guys are good mouthing us, and it doesn't matter. So yeah, it's just something that companies should be okay with. It's okay. Not every product is perfect. Not every product is great. Not every product is, you know.
Yeah, that is very, very true. I personally don't think I've ever seen anything I would call perfect.
Yeah.
And actually, you know,
you're on Overclockers. You will never find something perfect. You will always complain about one thing.
I will make my own perfect graphics card. I will wire it up.
You will never be able to do it.
Like, ultimately, the ending to me attempting to wire anything up is like, well, it does everything I wanted to at this point, but it looks like a god-awful mess, and I don't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole. So at that point, it already just loses all of the, like, oh, it's a nice product value, to me at least. But yeah, no, it's like this expectation that, like, I mean, if you just look at some of the scores you see awarded, right? Just ignoring the awards, like you see some of the scores, it's like some sites just churn out 9s. 9 out of 10. It's like, have you ever seen a number less than 9? Do you know what a number less than 9 looks like? It's ridiculous. It's like, oh, and to some extent, the justification is like, well, you never really get anything that bad. Well, in that, it's like, but then why are you even reviewing? If nothing is ever that good or that bad, if everything is just sort of average, just slap a freaking average on it and move on, right? It's like
normal. Just go normal or not normal.
There's one last thing is you will always be able to compare with what you know. For example, you receive 3 motherboard, you're gonna rank them 1 through 3. If you receive 8 of them, that's gonna be 1 to 8. And if you receive 1, there's gonna be a no mark.
Like, another option, well, yeah, basically you would need to sort of make your ranking for motherboard scale up and down depending on how many things you've tested. But the other thing is like for some things you could like set hard limits, like you can pre-test a certain level of something, you know, like best case scenario. If you're lucky enough to start on something that's best case scenario, then you can just score against that. And then you can make a sliding scale, and it doesn't matter how many samples you get, they'll all fit under that best case scenario.
True.
But even that's really, really hard to do a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, we could keep talking about this one for I think hours, because this involves so many different points of view, you know, and so many different angles. But yeah, it's just something that we totally wanted to shed some light on, because it's important. I think for the Overclocker Magazine, it's totally a move in the right direction as far as I'm concerned. They're going back to their roots, and that's what they were good at. So yeah, kudos to Overclocker Magazine for taking that step. I think more and more media companies should actually look at this and, you know, look hard at their own practices and learn from here. See what can be done, because it's definitely something that has been happening. It's come to our notice. But yeah, at the end of the day, there are multiple points of view that have to be catered to. Reviewers also have their own responsibilities. They have their own, you know, issues in the background, as per to say, with getting samples and stuff. So they can't really be, they can't push the boundaries, but it's something that I wish the companies would be more encouraging of, and, you know, more coming out in public and saying, look, it's okay if you call our products not so good. We're okay with that, because we have a better product. Because if everything is good, then what's the point of having an ultra high-end motherboard and a mid-section motherboard?
Yeah. That is very true. If like the bottom of the barrel board gets a 9 out of 10. Yeah. And then your flagship gets a 9.9 out of 10. Why would I pay 3 times more for that best motherboard if it's only 10% better according to our lovely scale? And one of them has the Editor's Choice Award, and the other one has the
Good Design Award. Yeah. Like I like the color award.
Yeah.
I've never seen that though. I've never seen
I can't remember. We have to talk about that in the after party, but I think there's way much to there's way more stuff to do on that. we could go for hours on that topic. So let's close the show, I guess.
Yeah.
Done. And we'll catch you guys very, very shortly with the after party, which is going to be more of the same and a lot more nonsense because it's the after party. So yeah, catch everyone soon. Stay tuned, and we'll be back very, very shortly.
Keep pushing it.
Keep pushing. And thank you for being here, guys.
Woohoo!